Well, in El Leopardo, Harry has fled from Oslo. He has fled to Hong Kong, where he is living in this building in Hong Kong that actually exists, Chung King Mansion, where you can spend your whole life. They have everything there. You know, you can sleep there, you can eat there, you can get married there, you can have your clothes fixed there. And his plan sort of is just to spend his rest of his life there. He is very traumatized by what happened in the previous novel, The Snowman. Then a female police officer comes there and tries to. First, she finds him, which is not easy, but she finds him and she tries to persuade him to come back to Oslo because he's the only specialist on serial killers that they have on the Norwegian police force. And there's a serial killer on the loose in Oslo. He still refuses to go back, but then she tells him that his father is on his deathbed in a hospital in Oslo. So he decides to, finally, he decides to come back to Oslo. Well, I plan my books really in detail. So when I finally sit down and I start writing chapter one, I have a synopsis of maybe 100 pages. So I really know the story, I know the plot. So I have the feeling I can tell my readers, to please come sit closer because I have this perfect story to tell you. And I know exactly where we're going, so just relax. I'm the captain of this ride. And in that synopsis, I have, of course, planned the plots. I try to think like a reader. I try to be both a writer and a reader when I come up with the plots and when I write. So I try to think of my readers as being as smart as I am, even a bit smarter actually. And that means that I have to challenge them and I try to give them enough information that they, when you get the surprise in the book, you don't go like, what? But you go more like, ah, of course. I think that is the trick of timing, both in comedy and in suspense and thrillers. That when you get the punchline or you get the solution, you're not really surprised. You just realize that, of course. But how to do that? It's I don't know. It's in one way it's a technique that you learn, but I think you have to have some sort of talent for it. My parents and all my relatives were great storytellers, and when we met for holidays, it would be like a storytelling competition. So I guess I learned telling stories the hard way. Getting slaughtered when your story were not when they weren't good enough, and then get hopefully some praise when you finally got it right. I think that Harry of the series, he has probably become more and more similar to the people he's chasing, and mainly he's chasing serial killers. And I definitely think it helps that he can probably more than most people relate to criminals and even to serial killers, not only from experience, but I think that there are elements of the psyche of the serial killers that Harry also can recognize. And there are always scenes in the books where Harry is looking in the mirror and looking at himself. He can sort of see the serial killer. So he's gradually drifting toward the dark side, and I think the main theme of the series and the novels is always, is Harry, given a moral dilemma, going to make the right choice? Is he going to be the protagonist or the antagonist of the story? I think El Leopardo was a bigger novel. Um, it's in many ways a more extreme novel, both in the emotions, in the violence is probably a tougher book than my previous books, and also in the settings. It's set in Hong Kong. It's set in Congo, a city that I went visiting, and that's in an extreme country. Goma was an extreme city in an extreme situation on the brink of a civil war. In that respect, it's a big book with many themes and many voices and extreme crimes and extreme situations. A central theme in El Leopardo is the relationship between father and son. It's underlying motive for the killer, the antagonist in the story, and it's also an underlying motive for Harry for coming back to Oslo. And he has never been close to his father, but on his deathbed, he realizes that he is a product of his father, a person that he feels is, the complete opposite of himself. And I think he realizes what the rocker Nick Cave put so well when he became a father himself. He said, "Now that I look down on my child, I realize how similar we are. Not me and my child, but me and my father." And I think it's something that we typically realize at some stage in life, that as sons we are more similar to our fathers than we realized, and maybe that we would like to. Advice for young writers would be just do it. Don't writing a book is quite easy. You write a little bit every day, and after a number of days you'll have a novel. That sounds simple, and it is simple. It probably won't be a very good novel, but you have to write your bad novels before you can write your first good novel. So if you want to write a novel, start writing today. There's no inspiration tomorrow. There's just the will to write a novel.